It's the real news. I'm Ben Norton. India has been rocked by scandals in recent weeks after workers protesting an environmentally destructive mining corporation were massacred by police. People in the city of Thoothukudi in the Indian state of Tamil Nadu held a protest for months demanding the closure of an environmentally destructive copper smelting plant run by the metal company Sterlite, which is owned by the UK-based megacorporation Vedanta Resources. Residents of villages nearby stressed that the facility was polluting their environment, leading to increased rates of cancer, breathing problems, and other public health concerns. On May 22nd, the 100th day of the protest, police responded with extreme violence, shooting at the unarmed demonstrators. 13 protesters were killed, and others were injured in the massacre. Politicians from some local parties and activists accused the police of planning to shoot and kill the protesters in an attempt to crush the months-long demonstration. In response to the massive scandal that ensued, the chief minister of Tamil Nadu state ordered the plant to be closed. Residents and environmental groups, which had campaigned for 22 years to close the facility, celebrated this as an important victory. Joining us to discuss this story is Kavitha Muralidharan. Kavitha is a journalist who has been reporting from on the ground recently in the city of Thoothukudi in Tamil Nadu. She recently published an article at the website The Wire titled Sterlite Protest, Speculation Rife that Police Firing Was Pre-Planned. Thanks for joining us, Kavitha.
Thank you.
So, can you talk a bit about Sterlite and about these protests and what you saw when you reported on the ground in Thoothukudi?
Sterlite is operating from the coastal town of Thoothukudi. It's a coastal town basically in southern Tamil Nadu since 1996. Prior to Thoothukudi, Sterlite was initially supposed to be set up in Ratnagiri near Maharashtra, where there was an outbreak of public protest and they eventually had to shift to Thoothukudi, in Thoothukudi, they could somehow convince the government to give them all kinds of licenses, and they started their operations in 1996. But since 1996, there have been protests against the Sterlite Corporation. One very remarkable thing happened in 1996. The country fishermen in Thoothukudi, they laid siege to a ship that was carrying the ore from Australia to Thoothukudi for Sterlite. So they had laid a siege, and it was such a big thing back in 1996, but it's been not so well reported because of lack of social media and other such things. So, but this has happened. The protest has always been there. It's not just it's not that the people have started protesting just now. It's always been there. So when I went there, I found that I was convinced that the police firing was planned. The police had intended to kill the protesters. And two, one cannot really establish a connection between the rising incidence of cancer and the pollution caused by an industry like Sterlite. But yes, the incidence of cancer has been rising in one small place, in one small village. At least 6 people have died in the month of April. And it's kind of created a fear in the minds of people. They've started thinking that the pollution is the reason for the cancer, and there is no there's nothing has happened from the side of the government or from the side of the Sterlite to kind of allay the fears of people. So that is a very important thing that I saw on ground. People have all kinds of fears, but no step has been taken to allay these fears. This was very important. And no cohort study has been done on what kind of pollution is happening in Thoothukudi. It's of course one of the most polluted towns in districts in Tamil Nadu. But there has been no study to establish whatever is happening there.
Yeah, and can you talk specifically about the events on May 22nd, the killing of a dozen protesters who had been protesting for 100 days? And specifically, you mentioned that, of course, it's hard to tell, but there are accusations that the police may have even been in collusion with the company to crush the protest. What does that say about the role of police?
See, the protesters, this particular protest has been happening for 100 days. And for all the 100 days, no representative from the government thought it fit to meet the protesting people or to have a dialogue with them, which itself is very disappointing. And and everything was planned on March 24. In March, they announced that they are going to observe the 100th day of protest by taking out a rally towards the district collectorate, demanding that the collector, who is technically the head of the town, the administrative head of the town, to meet them and receive a memorandum. It's just to present a memorandum to the collector demanding that Sterlite be closed. So everything has been planned, everything was prepared. What happens was on May 20th, May 17, Sterlite goes to the High Court of Madras branch in Madurai, demanding that 144 be imposed. 144 is a section where district is kept under curfew and any kind of crowd, any assembly of over 4 persons is prohibited. So Sterlite demands that, which is very unusual for a corporate company to do it and for a court to entertain it. So Sterlite demands that based on that, on May 20th, the High Court delivers a judgment directing the local administration to consider the plea of the Sterlite. So this itself, I think, is very strange. On May 22nd evening, 144 is imposed, which means the district is under curfew. But there is a procedure to kind of let people know that 144 is in place, which means you'll have to, those are villages around Thoothukudi. So you'll have to go to the village and announce them over microphone, which has not happened. Few people knew because they watched the channels and they read the papers the next day. But otherwise, there was no proper effort from the district administration side to convey to the people that 144 was in place. So people had no idea that the procession should not happen according to law, so they took out a procession. And it was massive. The numbers could be anywhere between 20,000 to 50,000. That's what I'm hearing. So it was such a massive protest. And I met a woman who had walked 10 kilometers towards the district collectorate from her place. It was so horrible that she was assaulted. She was beaten up with lathis and the back of the guns by the policemen, and she's bleeding till date. So all these violations had taken place. So it's very clearly the police had collided with the Sterlite to put an end to this march, to stop this protest. And the Sterlite also accuses the protesters of hurling petrol bombs towards their quarters, but the fact remains 13 of the protesters were killed, but on the other side, there were few cars that were damaged, nothing more than that. So it's very clear for everybody to see.
Yeah, and can you talk a bit more about what Sterlite is? Sterlite as a company is based in India, but its parent company, Vedanta, is actually based in London in the UK. And Vedanta is owned by the Indian billionaire Anil Agarwal. Can you talk about this billionaire and about Vedanta?
Vedanta, as I already said, it's been trying to kind of establish its roots across Tamil Nadu, across India. There has been problem everywhere, wherever Niyamgiri, for example, Vedanta had established a mining company and the protests are still happening. In Ratnagiri, Sterlite had to shift to Thoothukudi because people in Ratnagiri opposed its setting up. One argument that keeps coming up is Thoothukudi has many other polluting industries too. But Vedanta, as you rightly had pointed out, is based out of London, which means it's a huge corporate company. And we have a central minister saying on record that Vedanta had tried to bribe him, which means Vedanta is doing everything in its limits to keep this going. Even now, even after this massive shooting where 13 people have been killed, which is unheard of in the environmental struggles in Tamil Nadu, this is unheard of, but Anil Agarwal still keeps saying that he will do everything within his limits to keep Sterlite going. So this, I think, is very, it's very indifferent from the sufferings of the people. Is just turning a deaf ear to whatever their demands are. Plus, I can see, when I went there, I can see that people are really worried that the incidence of cancer is rising. There is a 5-year-old kid who is affected by cancer. Even assuming that Sterlite might not be responsible, as argued by some people, I think it's responsibility of the government to ensure that people's fears are allayed. But these people they are subaltern. They come from a very lower strata of the society, and nobody thinks it's important to hear their voices. I think that's where the local administration and the state government and the central government go completely wrong.
Yeah, and then finally, this is far from Vedanta's first controversy. The company, which as we discussed is based in London, the company has been charged with dumping toxic waste in communities in India. It's also been charged with displacing indigenous groups and many other scandals. Can you talk about the fact that there is this kind of corporate impunity, and this is not by any stretch of the imagination the first time that this company has seen such scandals?
True. Even in Thoothukudi, there's lots of things happening. The TNPCB, the Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board, is on record saying that water is being polluted because of the Sterlite company there. So there are ever so many data available about how Sterlite is actually polluting the locality in Thoothukudi, about how it's indulging in all kinds of violations, and there have been deaths inside the Sterlite company, inside the people. Workers have died, and there are records for workers having died. So this has happened in Thoothukudi. The Sterlite has went beyond all the acceptable standards in all the. I mean, it's been all the permissible. It's bypassed all the permissible levels. So there has been huge violations in every possible sector, and the Sterlite has been manipulating with data. Kind of it's kind of talking to the high level people to cover up everything to get license. But I think the most important thing is the Sterlite is closed now, but nobody knows for how long. But if it's closed, it's only because the 13 lives have gone. Otherwise, I think Sterlite would have managed to continue to exist in Thoothukudi itself despite the huge protest.
Yeah, and then concluding here, we were speaking mostly about Vedanta's work and corporate pollution inside Tamil Nadu, but I'm wondering if we could take a step back briefly, and could you talk maybe about the situation nationally? Do you think that there is a similar atmosphere of corporate impunity under the BJP government, that is the right-wing government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi? Do you think that corporations throughout the country have been given this kind of carte blanche and this leeway to pollute the environment and to, hurt civilians without any checks and balances?
Yeah, I think so. Basically, because Vedanta is also a huge donor for the BJP and for the Congress, yes. But but yes, everywhere the BJP, the central government, is refusing to listen to people's voices. It happened in Kudangulam in Tamil Nadu, where against the wishes of people, the central government is undertaking the expansion of a nuclear plant. And despite the protest went on for 3 or 4 years. It's happening, and everywhere else. I think this is happening across India, though, I mean, I don't have much data about the country. I have some data about Tamil Nadu, but in Tamil Nadu, it's definitely happening. The government intends to set up a neutrino observatory laboratory in southern Tamil Nadu, somewhere close to Thoothukudi in Theni district. So locals have been opposing it. There has been no attempt to educate the people what it really is. Instead, the central government particularly thinks it's okay to go ahead with all these kind of projects without the consent of the people, which I think is very dangerous, which is colliding with the corporates to go the corporate way.
Well, we'll have to end our conversation there. I was joined by Kavitha Muralidharan. Kavitha is a journalist in southern India, in Tamil Nadu, and she was recently reporting from on the ground in the city of Thoothukudi, where protesters were massacred by police after protesting for months against a copper facility, a copper plant. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Reporting for The Real News, I'm Ben Norton.